everyone, welcome back. So far, we have studied supply and demand curve, and last times we will study the equilibrium point where the two curves meet at one point, right? So today we are going to talk about chapter 5, so elasticity, right? And in these chapters, we will focus on the how sensitive consumers are to price changes. Um, so we are focusing on the commodity market. In addition, we will study use the assumption that it is the perfectly competitive market. Okay. The supply curve. Anyway, okay. The supply curve is the upward, and the demand curve is downward, right? So, do you remember the law of demand? What is the law of demand? The when price goes up, right? The quantity demanded will rises, right? So when price first, the quantity demanded what rises, right? And the vice versa, when the price goes up, when price rises, what? The quantity demanded what? Goes down, right? First. Okay, that is the kind of law of demand, right? So we can ask how much quantity so demanded is changing, right? So this is the first starting point for the elasticity of demand, right? So price elasticity of demand is what indicates how sensitive consumers' behaviors becomes to change in prices. Okay, so price elasticity of demand is a measure of um, how responsive buyers are to change if price changes. Okay, this is the price elasticity of demand. Okay, since demand is the consumer side, right? So we will focus on the demand curve for price elasticity of demand, right? So we can define the price elasticity of demand is a measure of how responsive buyers are to price changes. Okay, so the formula of the price elasticity of demand is percent changes in quantity demanded divided by percent changes in what? Price, right? So that is the price list of demand. So how can you find the percent change, right? For example, if we have y and x, right? So y is equal to x, right? So we have the linear function, okay? And here, so y is what? Y-axis is y, right? X-axis placed in here, right? So how can you find the slope? How can you find? The slope is what? Change in y divided by change in x, right? So in order to get a percentage, we can multiply 100, right? If we apply this formula, we can find the percent change in quantity demanded and the percent change in price, okay, in order to get the elasticity of demand, right? Okay, so I will give you one example of a market for gas. Okay, so example, um, So let's say that price of gas is reduced by 20%, and instead the quantity demand is increased by 10%. Okay, so how do you get the price list of demand? Okay, so cutting the price of gas, cutting the price of gas by 20%. Okay, and increase in the quantity demanded quantity demanded, okay, by 10%. Okay. Okay, so um, so cutting the price of gas by 20%, we can express it as minus 20%, right? In addition, for the increase in quantity demanded, we can express it as plus 10%. Okay, so if we use the price list of demand, okay, what was that? The percent change in quantity demanded divided by percent change in price, right? So how can you find the quantity demanded in here? So 10% divided by, okay, minus 20%. Okay, in order to get the price list of demand, price less the of demand. Okay, so what is that? Minus 1/2, right? So it is 0.5. Okay, so the price list of demand is minus 0.5, right? So the price list of demand always has the negative value. Why? Because of low demand, right? Always negative. Why? Low demand. Correct? Since the price and quantities demanded change always move in opposite sides, the price list of demand always has a negative value. Okay? Okay, so I will give you another examples of Uber. So let's say that the price of the Uber is reduced by 50%, and instead the quantity of demanded is increased by 50%. Okay, so I will give you that. Cutting the price of Uber by 15%. Okay, and quantity demanded okay, rises by 30%. Okay, so this one is cutting the price is the minus 50%, and quantity demand is rose by 30%, so we have plus 30%. Okay, so how can you find the price elasticity of demand? Price elasticity of demand is percent plus 30% divided by minus 50%. So we have minus 2 as the price list of demand, right? Which is the negative value. Okay, so, but when you look at the elasticity, we want to focus on the positive value instead of negative value, right? So in order to focus on how much it changes, right? So, and as we put the absolute value on the value we get, just like this, right? So, and then we have the positive value, just 2, okay? The absolute value is going to be just 2, correct? Okay, so for elastic demand, okay, we will use the absolute value in order to focus on just how much change in, right? If we compare the -3 to -2, right? If we have a price list of demand is -3 and -2, okay? At first, -2 is greater than -3, correct? But if we put the absolute value on two values, right? Just like this. Okay? Which one is bigger? This one is 3. This one is 2, right? So if we get the absolute value, 2 is greater than 2, right? So it means that the price list of demand is left hand side is bigger, right? So let's remind this one, okay? Okay, any questions about this? Okay, next, we are going to distinct inelastic from the inelastic. Okay, so being inelastic means that consumers are not sensitive to prices. Okay, so on the other hand, elasticity is the sensitive of the consumers to prices. Okay, so let's draw the graph. Let's say that gas prices have been reduced from $3 to the $2. Okay, and the quantity demanded has increased slightly from $3 to the $3.15. Okay, so elastic demand has a more steeper slope. So if we know that the gas price changes from $3 to $2, okay, and at the same time, the quantity demanded has increased slightly $3 to the $3.5. Sorry, 3.3 and 3.50. 3 to 350. Okay. So as you know that, we can realize that it is the price change in price, right? So these points only move along the demand curve, right? So this one is demand curve. Okay. Then how can I get the percent changes? So the change in price is from $3 to $2. So how can you find? Here 2 minus 3 divided by 3 times 100. Okay, so it is the minus 1/3 times 100. We have minus 33.3%. Okay, that is a percent change in price. Okay, are you with me? And okay, how can you find percent change in quantity demanded? 3.50 minus 3 divided by 3, okay, times 100, okay, what is that? 0.50 divided by 3, so we have 3, so we have 5%, okay? So how can you find price elasticity of demand? Okay, the price elasticity of demand is what? Percent change in quantity demanded divided by percent change in price. Okay, so percent change in quantity is 5%. Okay, divided by minus 33.3, right? And in addition, we can use the absolute value in order to ignore the negative value, right? So what is that? 0.15, okay? Which is the what? Less than 1, okay? So if the elasticity is less than 1, it is called inelastic, okay? Elastic, okay? because it is less than 1. Because when the price changes, the quantity demanded changes um, a little bit, right? So the moves that the consumers have not been so sensitive to prices. Okay, that is elastic case. Okay, so now let's look at the case when the quantity demanded is going to change significantly. The rate of the change in price is the same, right? As you know that elastic demand is just like this here. So now let's take a look at the case when the quantity demand is going to the change in significantly. The rate of change in price is the same with this elastic demand, right? But elastic demand is less steeper, okay, just like this. And what happens? And $2, okay, and the quantity demanded is changed from 3 to 6. Okay. So the percent change is the price anyway minus 33%, right? Sorry. And how can you find this one? This one is quantity percent change in quantity demanded. 6 minus 2 divided by 3 times 100. What was that? It is 100%, correct? So by using this information, how can you find the price elasticity of demand? Okay. Price elasticity of demand here, 100% divided by minus 3.3%. And we can take the absolute value. What is that? 3. Okay, so which is the greater than 1. Okay, so if the elastic demand is greater than 1, we can call it as elastic. Okay? In this case, greater than 1. Okay? Elasticity, the less than 1 is inelastic, and elastic greater than 1 is elastic. Okay? So when the elastic is just 1, we can call it as unit elastic. Okay? Price elasticity of demand is equal to 1. Okay, we can call it as unit elasticity. Okay? It means that if the price changes by the 1 unit, the quantity demanded changes by 1 unit. Okay, so this is the unit elasticity. Okay. Okay, so what happens to the graph if the elasticity is 0? The demand curve is going to be vertical, right? Just like this. Vertical line. Okay, so in this case, price less than demand is 0. Price of elasticity is 0, right? We can take the absolute value, and anyway it's 0, right? In this case, elasticity of demand is 0 because the rate of change in demand, okay, in 0, right? So what is meaning? So this means that no matter how much the price changes, okay, no matter how much price changes, right? The amount of quantity demanded does not change, only fixed this one. Okay, so it means that the rate of change in demand is 0. Okay. What would be the demand curve if the quantity demanded was constantly changing as the particular price? It's going to be horizontal demand curve. Okay. Just like this. Okay. It goes to the infinitely. Right? Elasticity of demand becomes horizontal. Okay. So in this case, price elasticity of demand is infinite. Okay. Sorry, this one is price of elasticity of demand. Okay. Okay, this one right hand side is infinite, so it is a vertical line. So it is a horizontal line. So right hand side is a vertical horizontal line, and the price list of demand is the infinite. Okay. On the other hand, if we have vertical demand curve, price list of demand is 0, right? So right hand side is at a specific price, the quantity demanded has changed, right? Infinite, correct? So this is why we have the price list of demand is infinite, right? Any questions about this? Good. Okay, next, let's look at the factors that determines the price elasticity of demand. Okay, so elasticity is about alternative possibility. Elasticity of all about substitutability. Substitutability. Okay. So if you don't have the closed alternative to choose from, so you are probably going to be inelastic. And if you have the closed alternative to choose from, you are going to be elastic. Okay. So if you don't have closed substitutes, okay, for choices, okay, it is what? Inelastic. Okay. And if you have closed substitute, you have closed substitute. Okay. In this case, elastic. Okay. In this case, you can change your behavior very easily. Okay. Okay, so in this sense, one of the factors that affect the price elasticity is that if the products are in a very competitive environment, okay, so they are going to have the high elasticity. Okay, so first, more competing products. Okay, in this case, you have greater elasticity. Okay. Okay, because you can find the closest substitute, right? So in this case, you can find a close substitute. Okay, substitutes. So this is because what? Consumers can choose the other products that much. Okay. Second, um, specific brands tends to have more elastic. So for example, my favorite cereal brand is Honey Nut Cheerios. Okay, do you like it too? So there will be lots of cereals in the market as an alternative, right? So you can just pick up the Cheerios, just to plain the Cheerios cereals, and you can pick the Kellogg Frosted Flakes the cereals, right? So it can be seen as an elastic because there are so many alternative products. Okay, uh, so because specific brands have more closer substitutes. Okay, okay, so third one is necessities of the product. Okay, necessities. So, necessities. Okay. So in case of necessities, usually it is the inelastic. The necessities refers to the products that difficult to replace in our life. So for examples, we often eat eggs, right? Rice, pasta, fruits, vegetables, and so on. Okay, that these are all the necessities of our life. Okay, so in this case, it is there are some things where there isn't a good substitute available. Okay, we just spend them every days, right? So necessity is inelastic. Okay? So necessity is something where there isn't a good substitute available. Available. Okay. So for example, eggs, right? And the rice, pasta, vegetable, and so on. So on the other hand, there is a luxury goods. Okay, luxury goods is the elastic. It is elastic. Okay. Luxury goods are relatively unnecessary products in our life. So, for example, expensive restaurant food and diamonds are luxury items. Okay. So it is the elastic, right? For example, restaurant food and diamond. Okay. And first, when consumers search for products, the products become more elastic. Okay, so consumer search. Okay. In this case, more elastic. For example, the Amazon. Okay, so it's Amazon is which you usually use to buy something. Okay, so if you try hard to find low price items in the web, okay, so the first product you wanted to choose will become elastic. Okay, so because if you have a substitute, it is elastic. Okay, you can change your behavior. Correct? The consumer search leads to the more elastic. Okay, so it is willing to search. willing to search, okay, a lot for low cost, right? You can save the cost. So there's a lot of the substitute, right? So what? It is elastic, correct? So in this case, we are more responsive to the price changes, okay? Okay. So finally, over time, the product becomes more elastic, okay? So over time, more elastic, okay? Okay, this is because the more alternative products are more over time. Okay, so usually what the products becomes more elastic in the long run, not short run. Okay, so in the end, the elasticity will depend on the people's and goods and prices. Okay, so over time there are more substitutes. Okay, especially in the long run. So elasticity will differ by person, what, and products and price. Sorry, price. Okay. Any questions about this? Okay. Next, we'll learn about the midpoint method, which is the way to calculate the elasticity of demand. So why do we use the midpoint as method? So let's think about the case where the quantity demanded decreased from 150 to the 100 as the opposite to 100 to the 150. Okay, so what this means? When quantity, if we think about gas market, when quantity gas from what 100 to 150. Okay, so in this case, if we think about it, is the increase by 50%, right? How about vice versa? If we guess it's from go back from 150 to 100, okay? So what is that? It's decreased by 33%. Okay, so it's according to the what is the criteria, what is the um, point where you change your value. It is the we have the different value. Okay, so this is the unknowing problem. Okay, okay. So how can you find this problem? So one way is to use the average of the 2 points. Okay, so if you use the midpoint, it says below. So step one, if we have any 2 points, I can say Q1 and Q2, okay, which are quantities. Okay, so how can you find percent change in quantity? Percent change in quantity is what? Q2 minus Q1. Okay. At first, we just use the Q2 in here, but if we use the midpoint method, Q2 plus Q1 divided by 2, which is the average of the two values. Okay, and times 100. Correct? So similarly, if we have percent change in price, step 2, percent change in price. Okay, how can you find? Let's say that any from the 2 points we have a P1 and P2. Okay, so if we have percent change in price is P2 minus P1, okay, divided by P2 plus P1 divided by 2, which is the average value of two prices, times 100. Okay? Next step is the same. Okay? In order to get the price over less of demand, okay? So percent change in quantity demanded or quantity supplied divided by percent change in price. Okay? Using midpoint method. Okay? Okay, so let me give you an example. If the cities increase the cost of the using a city-owned tennis court, the resident will now have to pay $200 instead of $100. And at this point, the by lower demand, if we can realize that if the price goes up, the quantity demanded will decrease, right? So the quantity demanded decrease from the 12,000, about 12,000 to the 7,265. Okay, so how can you find the absolute value of price less of demand for ownership? Okay, so step 1, we need to find the percent change in quantity demanded. Okay, so as we know that quantity demanded, I let this one is Q1, this one is Q2, and this one is P1 and P2. Okay, so what is the formula of the percent change in quantity demanded? Q2 minus Q1 divided by average value of Q2 and Q1. Q2 plus Q1 divided by 2, okay, times 100. Okay, so how can you find? Q2 is 7265 minus Q1 is 12774 divided by average value is sum of the two value divided by 2. Okay, don't forget multiply 100. Okay, so if you find if you calculate in your home, and it would be minus 5509 divided by 10020, okay, times 100. And in the end, we have the minus 55%. Okay, so percent change in quantity demanded is of minus 55%. Okay, so how can you find percent change in price? The formula is P2 minus P1, okay, divided by average value divided by 2 times 100. Okay, so what was the P2? $200. What was the P1? $100, right? So P2 is $200 minus $100 divided by average value, times 100. Okay, what is that? 100 divided by 150 times 100 ends up, in the end, we have plus 67%. Okay, so next step, final step is we need to find the price elasticity of demand, right? So price elasticity of demand is percent change in quantity demanded divided by a percent change in price. Okay, percent change in quantity demanded divided by percent change in price. Okay, so don't forget that we need to take the absolute value, right? We just ignore the negative sign. So percent change in quantity is 55%, divided by 67%. What was that? 0.8, which is the less than 1. Okay, what was that? It is the inelastic. Okay, that is the method of midpoint. Okay, any questions about this? Okay, so now let's look at the how companies use the demand elasticity. Okay, you can see the how demand elasticity shaped their total profits. So do you know the Howard Schultz? This person found the coffee is elastic. Okay, it's because the people consume the coffee every day. So these guys opened about 6 coffee shops in the Seattle and sold them at a higher price. So this strategy was a big success and it became the current Starbucks. Okay, this is an example of how companies use the demand elasticity. Okay, so total profit is, as you know that total profit is okay, price times quantity. Okay. Um, so in these chapters, we will study how demand elasticity shape your total revenue. Okay. How demand elasticity shape your profit. Okay. Okay, total profit is the price multiplied by quantity demanded. Okay, if we think about demand curve. So let's look at how we could make the total profits using a graph. Okay, so let's draw the graph. Here, we have demand curve, which is a downward sloping. Okay, and y-axis is price, and x-axis is quantity demanded. Okay, so if the price went from the $3 to the $4, and at the same time the quantity demanded would go down from the 100 to the 80. Okay, so what happens? $3 and goes to $4, right? At the same time, the quantity would be 80 and 10. Okay, right? Correct. By law of demand, if the price goes up, the quantity demanded would goes down, right? Go down. So, where is the total revenue? At first, revenue is in here. At $3, total revenues would be this rectangle, okay? Area of rectangle. Okay, area of rectangle is what? 8 times base, right? How much? How can you find? At first revenue revenue is what? 100 times $3. Okay, so total revenue is $300. Okay, but after changing the $4 from $3, what happens? We have 80, okay, as a quantity demanded. So new revenue is what? U1 is here. Okay, okay. Using this formula, total profit is the price times quantity demanded, correct? So what is that? 80 times $4. So 80 times $4. How much? $320. Okay, so there's a way where we can find the total revenue using a graph. Okay, any questions about this? Okay, so we are going to look at the two cases. The first case is when the demand is elastic. Okay, so the demand curve is relatively flat. Okay, like this. So if the demand curve is elastic, it is relatively flat. Okay, so what happens? If we use the same example, this one is $4 and this one is $3. Okay, so the prices goes up. Okay, so changing quantities vary a lot, right? So in this case, the price changes a little bit. The quantity demand will change significantly, right? So by lower demand, the higher price will naturally lead to the small profits. So I will show you what happens. This one is, let's look at the what? Big four, right? So I let this one 50 and 100. Okay. So what is the first total revenue at first? What's that? 100 times $3, right? 100 times $3, we have $300, correct? But after changing the price to the $4, right? So what happened? What is the new revenue? Uh, 50 times what? 4. So we have $200, right? So it means that higher price leads to the less total revenue, okay? In this case, if the demand is elastic, right? So in this case, higher price, okay, leads to less total profit. What about when the demand curve is elastic? The demand curve is relatively steep, right? Relatively steep. Steep. Okay. So looks like this here. So when the price increased from $3 to the $4, it decreased from 100 to the 80. Okay. In this case, at $4, $3. Here is the what? 80 and 100. Okay. So if the price goes up, the change in quantity is a little bit. Okay. So what is the total revenue at first? 100 times 3, So we know that is $300. And what is the new revenue? New revenue is as $4. We have 80, right? So $4 times 80, we have 320, which is the greater than $300, correct? So we can realize that if the demand is inelastic, the new revenue is greater than old revenue, right? So in this case, higher price leads to a more higher total revenue, correct? So companies will want to raise the price when the product is what? Inelastic. Okay. So in this case, higher price leads to more profit revenue. Profit. So in the end, we can realize that many companies will want to raise the companies wants to raise the price when the product is inelastic. Okay, that is our conclusions we need to understand. Okay, so what are the strategies of companies if the demand for product is inelastic, right? They want to raise the price. Okay, so sorry, this is demand up. Okay, so that's why Howard Schultz raised the price because the demand for coffee was inelastic. Okay. On the other hand, Airlines Southwest is looking to make a high profits by lowering the prices because plane tickets demand is what? Elastic, right? So if the demand for a product is inelastic, right, you should raise the price. Okay. Okay, so now let's look at the other forms of demand elasticity, which is the cross price elasticity of demand. Okay, so depending on the relative price of products, we run that there are substitutes and complements, right? So as for substitute goods, price of related goods, right? So we have substitute and what? Complements. Okay, correct? So what was that? The substitute is if the price of a substitute good increase, right? So the demand for another goods increase, right? In this case, price of substitute increase, then more demand for another good, right? Correct? How about complements? Complement is the price of a complement increase. What happens? We have the less demand for another good. Okay, so price of a substitute increase, less demand for another goods. Okay, that is the substitutes and the complements. Okay, so this one is the what? Shifters of the demand curve, right? Okay, so As for the substitution goods, the demand for other products increase as the price of substitute products increases. So the price of substitute and the demand for other products move in the same directions, right? In this case, here's plus and plus, right? If here is minus and minus, correct? How about complements good? Complements good in case these two moves in a different way, right? Different directions. This one is plus and demand for another good is minus. The price of a substitute good is minus. The demand for another good is plus, right? So, according to the cross price list of demand, substitution goods would be positive and complement is negative, right? So, what is the cross price list of demand? Cross price list of demand is percent change in quantity demanded, okay, divided by percent change in price of another goods. Okay. Okay. So you can understand what it is. Okay, so I will give you examples of the cross price list of demand in order to understand what it is. For example, one of the typical example of complements good are the Pepsi and Coke, right? Coke and Pepsi, okay? Because they can replace each other, right? So if the price of Pepsi increase, okay, by 10%, what happens for demand of Coke? In this case, many people want to purchase the Coke, right? Because the Pepsi prices increase, okay? You will feel that it is very expensive. So we'll buy more Coke, okay? By, let's say 50%. Okay, so how can you find cross price list of demand? Using this formula, right? A numerator is plus 50% divided by plus 10%. So we have a 5. Okay, so which is the greater than 0. Okay, so it means that it is positive. Okay, as you know, the substitute has the positive value of cross price list of demand. Okay, so another example is there's a printer and a printer cartridge. Okay, printer cartridge. Okay, they are complements goods, right? So if the printer cartridge increased by 10%, you will buy less printers. Okay, by let's say 50%. Okay, so in this case, here is the minus 50%. So what is a cross price list of demand? minus 50 divided by 10%. Okay, so we have minus 5, which is the less than 0. Okay, so it is the negative value. Okay, so for substitute, they have a positive value, and in terms of the complement good, they have a negative value. Okay, so that is a cross price less of the demand. Okay, so here's the income less of demand, which is another types of elasticity of demand. So demand can change depending on the wages, right? Do you remember that? So which is the divide into the what? Normal goods and inferior goods. Okay? According to income, okay, which is the shifters of demand curve. There is a normal good. Another one is inferior goods, right? So what was a normal good? If the price goes up, your demand of the product will also increase, right? So higher income, okay, and more demand. Okay. On the other hand, inferior good is higher income, okay, decreased demand, less demand. Okay. So this is the normal goods and inferior goods. So if we think about directions for each goods, this one is plus. Normal good has the same directions, plus and plus, minus and minus. But on the other hand, inferior good, higher, if we have higher incomes, we have less demand. So this one is minus. Okay, if this one is minus, this one is plus. Okay, so they have the opposite directions. Okay, so income less of demand is the percent change in quantity demanded divided by percent change in income. So percent change in quantity demanded, okay, divided by percent change in income. Okay. So for example, I will give you one example here. Your incomes lost by 10%. Okay. And your restaurant meal lost by 10%, right? Your demand for restaurant meal lost 10%. So what types of restaurant meal in this case? Normal goods, right? We have the same directions between income and demand for restaurant bill. Okay, so how can you find? So how can you find income less of demand? Numerator is what? 10%, and denominator is also 10%. Okay, it is the 1, which is the greater than 0. Okay? So as you know that if the elasticity is the 1, right, we can call it as unit elastic. Okay? This one is unit elastic. Okay. So since this income and since the restaurant meal is the normal good, okay, we have the same directions. So we have the positive value of income elastic of demand. Okay. Any questions about this? Okay, next, the we'll study this in terms of the price list of supply. Okay, so this is very similar to the price list of demand, but remember that according to the law of supply, right? So if the price increases, the quantity supplied goes up. Okay, law of supply is okay, price goes up. You will want to make more products. Okay, so your quantity supplied goes up, right? That is the soluble supply. The price list of supply is explain the how responsive sellers are to price changes. Okay? How responsive sellers to price changes. Okay? So price list of supply is okay. So percent change is quantity supplied. Okay? Divided by percent change in price. Okay? Okay, which is the price list of the supply. Okay, so for example, I will give you an example of the gas market. So if the price of a gas market rises by 20%, and at the same time, quantity supply rises by 2%, how can you find? For example, mm, the price of gas increased by 20%, and quantity supplied increased by 2%. Okay, so here's two of them is positive value plus 20% plus 2%. Okay, so by using this price list of supply, we can find the value. Quantity supply, percent change in quantity supply is plus 2% divided by percent change in price is 20%. Okay, so we have 0.1. Okay, if this value is less than 1, the gas price is elastic. Gas supply is elastic. Okay. Um, any questions about this? So as you know that the price list of supply always has a positive value. Okay, due to the law of supply. On the other hand, the price of list of demand always has a negative value because of a law of demand, right? So let's look at the elastic supply and elastic supply. Okay, so elastic supply relatively flat. Okay, do you agree? This one is supply curve, and we can say it is relatively flat. Okay, so what happens if the price goes up? The price goes up, we have a big rise of the quantity supplied. Okay, how about in elastic supply? In elastic supply is relatively steep, right? So relatively steep. right? So if the price goes up, okay, the quantity supply changes a little bit, right? So small rises, small rise, okay, because it is inelastic, okay? Less response supply, okay. Any questions about this? Um, it's the same thing. So with the demand curve, if we have a vertical supply curve, it is the price. It means that what? Any prices, you will not change the quantity supply. Okay, so it means that there's no change in quantity. So we have zero as the price less of supply. On the other hand, if we have the horizontal line of supply curve, in this case, the elasticity of supply is infinite, right? So it is the same thing with the demand curve. Okay. Okay. So let me give you an example of Uber. I will use the midpoint method for getting the price elasticity of a supply, right? So um, the if the Uber's price increased from the $100 to $140, and at the same time the number of drivers could increase this from 200 to 300. Okay, so percent change in what is the percent change in quantity and percent change in price? Okay, um, so what is that? I just let this one is P1 and P2. This one is Q1 and Q2. Okay, so as you know that percent change in quantity supply is Q2 minus Q1 divided by average value, correct? What is Q2? 300 divided by minus 200 divided by average value, okay, times 100. Okay, what is that? If you checked this value is anyway 1000 divided by 25 because we have 40%. Okay, so in terms of the percent change in price, okay, if we use the midpoint method, P2 minus P1 divided by average value, okay, times 100. So P2 is the 140 minus 100, and we can divide by average value times 100. What was that? It is you can check the value 400 divided by 12, which is the 33%. Okay, so step 3, we need to find what? Price list of supply. Okay, price elasticity of supply. Okay, what was that? It is percent change in quantity, okay, divided by percent change in price. Okay, so percent change in quantity is 40%, okay, divided by percent change in price is 33%. Okay, anyway, we can use the absolute value. So what is that? We have 1.2. Okay, this is the price list of supply. Okay, so this 1.2 is larger than 1. Okay, so we can realize that it is elastic. Okay, this is all chapter 5, and next time we will study chapter 6, which is the when the government intervene in the market. Okay, so thank you.